Before we get into the nitty-gritty of the technical sessions, let us take a moment to thank those whose support has made today possible. We really appreciate the contribution of our sponsors, the platinum sponsors, Lanka IOC PLC and Pearson View, the gold sponsors, Sanasa Life Insurance Company PLC, OTR Engineered Solutions Lanka, Diesel and Motor Engineering PLC, Haycarb PLC, SLT Mobitel. And the silver sponsors, Selinco Life Insurance Limited, SoftLogic Life Insurance PLC, National Savings Bank, AJ Medichem International Private Limited, Built Element Limited, and Akbar Brothers Group, as well as our print media partner, Vijay Newspapers, and People's Bank, another sponsor. Great appreciation to them for making the events of yesterday and today possible. Now, during yesterday's inaugural and initial session, we were able to see the scope of the subject that we're grappling with. From the imperative that each of us takes action in our sphere, to the transformation, transparency, and building of trust that is vital to the shaping of the future. Which brings us to the fourth session today, Shaping the Future, Trends and Insights for Tomorrow. As was mentioned, what we do today determines our future tomorrow, whether it is going to be a comfortable one or a rather hostile and uncomfortable territory. And so it stands to reason that we use the tools that we have to envision what tomorrow can be and to bring that about. And so we'd like to invite our panelists for the session and our speakers, beginning with Dr. Nuwan Gunaratne, Senior Lecturer of the Department of Accounting, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, Mr. Kaushika Jayalath, Solutions Consultant, Oracle Corporation, and Council Member of CPA Australia. Our panelists, Mr. Sanath Manatunga, Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of the Commercial Bank of Ceylon PLC, and Mr. Conrad Dias, Director of LOLC, as well as our chairpersons, Senior Professor Kennedy Gunawardena, Head Department of Accountancy, University of Sri Jayawardhanapura, and Council Member of CMA Sri Lanka, as well as Ms. Surekha Katavala, Council Member of CMA Sri Lanka. We'd like to invite you to take your places on stage, please. It's free seating. And with our speakers poised, I'd like to invite Professor Kennedy Gunawardena to take the lead and begin the session. Thank you.
Good morning to all of you. Dear President CMA, Vice President, Council members, and the President from CPA, Sri Lankan representatives, CPA, and my dear panelists and participants. I think that digitalization is the topic I think we are going to talk to today. Digitalization is what? Doing business electronically. That is what the famous definition Philip Kotler done. Doing business electronically. And we are all doing a business or working with the digitalization environment. Your mobile phone, your iPad, and the laptops, everything is get connected today. That is the digitalization. The whole population right now divided into two parts. Digital aliens and digital natives. I think the young people who are here, you know internet. You know how to work with the internet and how to do the business with mobile phone. They are digital natives. We are digital aliens. Why it says that in our time, we didn't have an internet. We didn't have a mobile phone. But very quickly and rapidly, we have absorbed or adapt the digitalization environment. Then we have that skills to adaptation. Then we are called digital aliens. And you are here, you born in that time with the internet environment, or all digitalization environment, you are digital natives. Now under this situation, whole industry today, especially banking industry, and especially in the banking, some other industries, even our environment like education industry, we are getting more challenges and more barriers also we have to adapting to the digitalization environment. Now banking is like a bit and bytes environment. They are doing 1 and 0 in business, right? Everything they can transfer through mobile system, and they can deposit the money, withdrawing, everything, right? Now this is the situation I think we all facing right now. And lot of barriers, lot of challenges in local environment and readiness also, we have a lot of issues. And in the other side, AI. AI also coming fast. You remember that in 1970s, ATM came to the world. The 1980s, call centers. In 1990s, mobile phones and all kind of things. Internet, sorry, 1990s internet. Then 2000 mobile technology. Then nowadays we have a cloud computing, AI, machine learning, CRM, customer relationship management. Things are changing very fast. In Sri Lankan environment, we are as a Sri Lankan, we are working here, we are doing business here. Do we ready to go to the digitalization environment? And what challenges we have, what barriers we are encountered, and how we are going to solve such a things. That is the main objective today in our panelists, very experts panelists we have. We are going to discuss with them, because that is your future. That is your next future. You're all in generation D. Generation Z also gone. And we are in generation X. But everything is changing right now. And we want to go for the future. That is what I think we should want to start the panel like this. And very special thanks to the CMA, because CMA has chosen best topic, which is really, really needed to the Sri Lankan situation. Then we can start our panel discussions with these remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Ms. Sureka from Central Bank, you can raise the first question from our panelists. I think I don't want to explain the panelist members. Okay, you have all presentation. Okay, then Dr. Nuan, he's one of my colleagues in my department, the highest citation in the Sri Lankan contest. He's have more than research citation, because the lecturers and the professors evaluation based on the citation. He has scored a lot of citation compared to our time. I think I invite to the Dr. Nuan to start your presentation.
Good morning. So distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. So before I make my presentation, now let me draw your attention to the Future of Jobs report issued by the World Economic Forum. So this is the latest report, and is widely accepted in the industry. Now this report highlights 3 key drivers of job change: green transition, then technology, and economic outlook. So the green transition is going to create more jobs in the future, whereas the technology is going to create new jobs in the future, as well as it's going to displace certain jobs in some sectors as well. Then the economic outlook, shaped by the geopolitical uncertainties and then again geopolitical tensions, will have negative impact on the future of the jobs market. Then when you look at the mega trends driving business transformation, so it's the adoption of technology, digital access, then ESG standards, then green transition, consumers becoming more and more sustainable, and they are demanding sustainable products and the performance from companies, then climate change. So these are the mega trends that will drive the business world. the job market in the future. So when you look at these factors, we can identify some factors that would shape the future of management or accounting education. So green transition, more broadly, we can say that's sustainability and ethics, and we can even add governance so that it will be ESG. Then the technology, and then the technical acumen, because the accountants should have the technical acumen to navigate through the difficulties of the economic turmoils. So that's what the job market demands. But traditionally, in accounting or management accounting pedagogies, that's how we have been trained. That's how we have learned accounting. Maybe 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, as Professor mentioned. So that's how we have learned accounting. Mainly, we had lectures, maybe one-way communication in these lecture rooms. We had about 50, 100, or 200 students, and there was very little room for personalized learning. Okay. And that's what we call these Fordism, the mass production of accountants in a large classrooms. And then when you look at the student experience, they often find the lectures monotonous or maybe boring, and then they struggle to see the real-world applications of the theories. Then they usually exercise last-minute cramming, which we are all familiar with. And then all these factors will lead to poor learning experience by the accounting students. Therefore, the accounting education should evolve to meet the current and the future demands, especially shaped by these three factors. That is the digitalization or the technology, then sustainability, and finally technical acumen. So these are some of the innovative methods as educators we can adopt. Maybe when I say educators, it's the university educators as well as the professional accounting bodies education as well. So when you look at the innovative methods, educators can use flipped classrooms. That is where the students will watch the videos or do the reading materials, and they will come to the classroom to solve the problems or to make the discussion. So this makes the education student-centric, and also students become more active learners. Then there is case studies. We can use case studies to showcase the real-world examples. Then problem-based learning, so that the students can play with these real-world challenges. Then also, there's experiential learning, where students can use simulation software, and they can apply their knowledge and see the impacts of their decisions in a risk-free environment. So before they actually practice, they can simulate and see the impacts that these decisions would create on the economy and the company and the society. So these are some of our experiences at the University of Sri Jayewardenepura. So these are some of the accounting students engaging in a waste audit. So we train some of our students to engage in waste audit to provide them that practical experience. Then these are some of the students visiting tea factories, then again mining companies, and they're working with accountants as well as engineers to have that transdisciplinary view for their accounting profession. So these are some of the examples or the initiatives we have taken at the University of Sri Jayewardenepura. Then, coming to digitalization, that there are many trends that would shape the future of accounting education, but I'm going to focus on few things, that is online learning platforms, gamification, and the use of AI, especially with the upcoming of online learning platforms. Say it's Coursera, it's LinkedIn Learning, or Udemy, or it can be edX. Because of these learning platforms, because of these online learning platforms, education has become more accessible, it has become more affordable, and it has become more adaptable. So this is what we call the triple A effect of online platforms on accounting education. Then, when we use AI in classrooms, there are classrooms and assessment, there are many benefits we can derive. So while there are many benefits, I would like to summarize them into three. One is that AI would offer personalized learning experiences for the students. Then it would enable interactive and engaging content development. And also it will facilitate administrative efficiencies. So moving to the first, personalized learning. So as educators, when we go to the classroom, one of the challenges we have is the students' learning capacities, learning behaviors, and their backgrounds are different. So in some of our classes, we have students majoring in accounting, or students, for them, accounting is a major subject. Or there are some students who are from, let's say, management or human resource or HR backgrounds. For them, accounting is just another subject. So how do we personalize the content? Or in some of these master level classes especially, we have accounting students, the students who are teaching accounting, who are learning accounting, and their background, some of them are practicing accountants, or others are medical doctors, or others are engineers who don't know even anything about double entry system or time value of money. So that how do we customize our learning, or how do we customize our teaching? So that's the challenge that as educators we have. So that is where adaptive learning platforms powered by generative AI or AI would offer customized learning experiences for the students. If a student is weak in, let's say, investment appraisals, so these systems can provide customized learning or additional reading materials, additional calculations on time value of money or discounting. So some of these platforms like Alex and Newton, so they use AI-based algorithms to customize the delivery and the content based on the student feedback and the performance. Then moving to the interactive and engaging content, so AI will enable the educators to use simulations to immerse the students in real-world examples. Not only these will enhance the learning experience, that will also improve the level of motivation of both students as well as the educators. So universities like Harvard and many other business schools around the world, they use simulation in accounting and finance education. Then AI would facilitate administrative efficiencies for the educators. Because when we go to the classroom, we have to not only teach, but do the assignment marking, or we have to get the attendance, we have to set the assignments. So there are a lot of tasks that will take our valuable time away from providing a valuable experience for the students. So that there are certain AI platforms or tools that can automate grading, attendance, and even scheduling certain tasks. So that these platforms or these tools can improve the accuracy, and they will provide customized feedback for the students, especially when you are dealing with large number of students. But at the same time, we have to be careful of the biases in AI. But in general, they offer many advantages, especially GradeSpace or Turnitin can automate many of these routine tasks that the educators perform on a daily basis. So this is how AI could revolutionize the accounting education. So let's look at some of the practical applications of AI in accounting and finance education. So that in quantitative finance, there are platforms like ConConnect, which will automate the complex calculations so that the students can focus more on the analytical skills, developing analytical skills. Then Power BI and Tableau, I know that Professor Kennedy is using Power BI in one of his courses, so that we can train our students to develop data visualization and analytical skills. Then when we analyze literature, we can use some of these AI tools like Connected Papers, Research Rabbit, and there are a lot of tools, AI tools that are developing to support research. Then when we analyze research data, especially when we analyze large sets of social data generated from YouTube or Facebook, then there's Gephi, and if you want to analyze qualitative data, then there is Leximancer, and if you want to develop systematic literature reviews, then BiblioShiny, WOSViewer, and there are many tools that have emerged so that the education landscape is fast changing. And also, to improve the writing of the students. Student can benefit of wide range of tools from Quillbot to Grammarly, then again to even ChatGPT. So while these tools offer benefits or advantages, they offer challenges for the educators as well, because we don't know the content is generated from the students or not. Even we have certain tools to detect AI generation. There are also tools that can humanize the AI content generation. So that it's a challenge that we are constantly facing. Then coming to the second aspect, that is sustainability and the ethics aspect in accounting education. So this is one of the mega trends that was highlighted in the Future of Jobs report. And even IFAC is revising their accounting standards, especially IAS 2, 3, and 4, in the light of the new sustainability standards they have issued, S1 and S2. They just closed the consultation session on 24th. Then when it comes to ethics and sustainability integration, as educators, we have two approaches. So one is to offer standalone courses or to embed these contents into the other courses. So at University of Srijawardenapura, we have taken this dual approach where we have introduced some novel courses on corporate sustainability. So these courses were introduced way back in 2012 or 13. And initially these courses were electives, but later they were made compulsory courses in the light of the importance of sustainability accounting education. Then in the management accounting stream, we are teaching sustainability more from an internal perspective, how they can strategize, plan, make decisions, then again control. Then in financial accounting streams, the focus is more on the reporting, where we focus more on GRI, then again IFRS S1 and S2, then also integrated reporting frameworks. So that we have taken different approaches to integrate sustainability and ethics into accounting education. So when you follow these approaches, you've got to be pragmatic. So you need to follow some case studies, then field visits, then project collaboration, and also we have to use industry experts as the extended faculty. So these are some of the visits we have made. The accounting students are visiting recyclers, they are visiting solar panels, they are visiting solar parks, STP plants, sewage treatment plants. So these are all future accounting students engaging in different learning experiences. Then these students develop books to create more knowledge. Then they develop videos. So this Waste Undertakers is a video they developed. So likewise, they not only enhance their knowledge and skills, when they engage in these type of activities, they actually change their mindset, especially their attitudes and the value system. That's very important. Then let me look at the CMA syllabus, the CMA new syllabus from 2023 to 2027. So that CMA's new syllabus is based on the philosophy of equipping future accountants, where they have focused on the three factors I mentioned. That is digitalization, then the sustainability of value creation, and also providing technical acumen. So in the CMA new syllabus, there are some specific courses like sustainability and sustainability management accounting, then digital business, then governance and ethics, and also in other courses, digitalization and sustainability and ethics and governance have been incorporated. Then also there's a separate skill pillar that's focusing specifically on the technology skill development, ranging from IT applications to advanced data analytics. So that the professional accounting bodies and also universities are taking innovative approaches to change or to innovate the accounting education. Then once again, let me draw your attention to the Future of Jobs report. So this report highlights that in the next 5 years, 44% of the workforce's core skills will change. So this applies to educators and this applies to our students as well. So what does it mean? So nearly 50% of our skills, present skills will change. So we have to acquire new skills in the future. So that when you look at the fastest growing and the fastest declining jobs, accounting, bookkeeping, and payroll is on the top 10 fastest declining jobs, according to the World Economic Forum's report. So what does this highlight? So there will not be much room for the clerical accountants, but accountants will have to be business consultants, especially the management accountants will have to be business consultants or the strategic business partners or the co-pilots. So that as opposed to mere financial skills, they have to develop the consulting skills and the business partnership skills. So when you look at this skill development, what is essential is not to focus on the basic skills, but to look at the advanced skills demanded by the world in the future, especially analytical skills, creative skills, then again AI and big data skills, then resilience, lifelong learning. So these are the skills that are needed for the future. Therefore, as accounting educators, we need to focus away from the basic skill development to advanced skill development through our accounting programs. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we know that those who aren't willing to adapt risk being left behind. So let me get this famous quotation in our country. So we say that Ugatamana Shilpemai Maturakena, that is, learned art is what keeps the future. But when you look at the mega trends that are changing, the mega trends that are shaping the accounting profession as well as the accounting education, what we also need to have is Maturakena Shilpemai Ugatamana. Future-proof art is well learned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Nuwan. Our next presentation, Mr. Jayalath, Solution Consultant, Oracle Corporation, and Council Member of the CPA Australia. He is going to present the very important topic called digitalization and AI. Over to you.
Okay. Aiboan, Vanakkam, good morning. Before I start, I just want to say thank you very much for Professor Vatavala for inviting me here to speak to all of you. We've met once before, and we had a very engaging conversation, and clearly I made an impression enough for Mr. Vatavala to invite me here. My session's going to be a little more interactive. It's a bit of a distance, so I'm going to resort to just asking you to just put your hands up. But before I even begin, and thank you, Dr. Nuwan, for those very insightful points of view, especially around education and the need to upskill for everyone. So my first question is, how many people here actually use AI in their day-to-day life? And it's okay if you don't. But if you do, I'd like to see you raise your hand. Thank you. The reason I asked that question is it's a new concept, yes, but that's because the media hype right now is pushing it to you. But AI as a theory, as a concept, as a technology has existed for a very long time. So you don't have to change the way you look at it. What you need to do is take advantage of the opportunities that are there now. So with that, I'll actually open my presentation by, just before I came down today, I just asked DALL-E. DALL-E is the ChatGPT for images. So you could put any text in and it gives you an image. And I literally fed it the text from the flyer for this conference. And it gave me this picture. And the reason why I'm showing you this is it's pretty accurate. When I look around the room as to what it's put up, I didn't feed it anything other than just the details of this conference. So that's me trying to show the power of AI is there when it comes to creativity from a generative AI point of view. But I then asked it the question, give me a picture of a Sri Lankan accountant who's confused by AI. And what I got was this. That's not a Sri Lankan accountant, okay? Then I asked it, basically I said incorrect, give me a picture of a Sri Lankan accountant, make sure that the person is Sri Lankan. And the response I got was this. That's not accurate either. So I had to feed it even more prompts to say, this is inaccurate. You have to get rid of the sari, I guess, that they were trying to put on a Sri Lankan accountant. And I finally ended up with this. Now that's a little more depictive. But if you look at the flag a little closely, that's still not accurate. The point I'm trying to make is the AI wrong for what it produced, or am I wrong? Because is the problem the AI or the prompt that I gave? It could be one or the other. It could be a mix of both. But the point is, you need to now upskill yourself to the point where you can actually use this tool. It's going to be something that you learn through iterations. There is no getting this right the first time. But eventually, it will give you what you want. And I got that picture, and I didn't have to put any other work other than get my prompts right. So it's important to understand that AI has been around for a long time. We used it in World War II as mankind. The first chatbot was in 1964. We beat a chess champion with AI in 1997. I'm being very conscious of the word by saying we beat a chess champion instead of saying AI beat a chess champion. There's a difference. 2008 was the birth of Siri. All of your iPhones will have one. 2020 was the birth of GPT-3, and now we have generative AI embedded within the applications that we use. If you open your WhatsApp today, there's a little blue circle, and there's an AI bot there. Now, what's important is learning how to use these in a way that you, as employees of a business, do not implicate yourself or the business, but you get the productivity gains that you're looking for. Dr. Nuwan covered it very well from the aspect of what students would be looking out for. And the students will come out of university a lot more prepared. But you're already in the workforce, and if you are, you need to upskill yourself pretty quickly. These are a few key items I'm putting up as things to be aware of. If you are in any kind of a leadership position, if you are in any kind of a subject matter expertise position, and you are asked to work with AI, stop and go through this list. Ask yourself the question, am I reinventing the wheel? Is the thing that I'm trying to do already done? Because if so, you'll save yourself a lot of time. You cannot get distracted. It's very easy with AI to see something new and shiny and chase it. We do not, in this country, have the capability, the resources, the capital to get distracted in this current climate. And so it's very important that you keep your eye on the core issue, and that comes to the third point, adopting a business-first approach. You can use AI, you can transform your finance function, but make it absolutely clear on what's the problem you're trying to solve. What is the business process you're trying to make efficient? What is the problem, the core issue your finance function is having? And what are the metrics or the measures for success? If you do not have those three things sorted out before you start looking at technology, it will not work. I work a lot with Australian, New Zealand, and Papua New Guinea businesses. And these are the hallmarks of a successful finance transformation. I coincidentally also work a lot with universities as well in Australia. Same problems exist, but the start and the end of a transformation is those key points. The next one is skills development. It's paramount for value creation. There is no point bringing in a new technology if your employees are then going to say, thank you, but this is not what we are used to. We're just going to keep doing it the way we did before. And then making sure your measures for success are clear, your timelines are clear. These are paramount. Now, these are not new. These have nothing to do just with AI. This is for any transformation. But it's very easy to forget these when it comes to AI. And that's why I'm calling these out. Now, a few global observations on transformation. As CPA Australia, we did a 2024 business technology report, which actually gave some pretty interesting results. There's 28% of the people, or of the businesses that participated in it, said that it improved efficiency through the automation of repetitive tasks. 24% said improved productivity. 22% said improvements in decision-making were found through improved data analytics. This is all good news. But keep in mind, only 9% said that it had any impact on employee numbers. So we have this predisposition now that accounting will become non-existent because of AI. But as Dr. Nuwan explained quite well, it's less about the task, it's more about the definition of who an accountant is and what an accountant does. If you are a trusted business partner, if you are a trusted advisor, if you have an accreditation and a qualification, then you are no longer someone just putting in double entries on a book. I can see the difference because I live in Australia where every organization's trying to implement a cloud technology solution and an accounting software, but I come back here and my dad has a business and it has one accountant and he still maintains a ledger book. So I recognize that a change like that takes a lot of time. But in that process, you need to be absolutely clear that you have the skills, the incremental skills you need to change. But if you look at where people are spending their capital globally, your CIOs, your CFOs, your CEOs, the trend is changing in terms of the investment they're putting in. Cloud infrastructure globally is still the most invested thing. Then comes generative AI now. It used to be data warehousing that you need for data visualization. Now it's generative AI, then data warehousing, enterprise security, and data operations. But keep in mind, that yellow line is useless if the other blue lines don't exist. Meaning, using AI, trying to transform your finance function, cannot happen without a clear data policy, without proper infrastructure. And that is why I want to focus on a few practical use cases for you. Because we can talk about the theory of it, but if you don't understand the practical implications and where you can use this, then it's very difficult to start because it's overwhelming. My background is a financial accountant. I work in a technology company now, but that change happened incrementally. It started with me looking at what do I have to do to improve an accounting standard in the accounting software that company was using. It's those little things within your growth mindset that can make a big change. Now, the observations that Dr. Nuwan made were correct, though, because even if we look at Australia alone, it's the students that are driving innovation, not employees. 58% of university students there use Gen AI, compared to 32% of employees. Younger workers between 18 and 24 are 3 times more likely to use Gen AI compared with mid-career workers. These are today's stats. Now, will this change? Absolutely. But it's important to understand where we are. But employees themselves have said that they save on average 5.3 hours per week. Now, for employees, that's time back in their hands. But for employers, that's efficiency gains. So there are clear values behind using AI as a productivity tool. And that doesn't need a lot of effort. It's a case of using the GPTs, it's a case of using things like Gemini and ChatGPT in a responsible way. That's the challenge. 1/3 of employees use some form of Gen AI. 2/3 of employees believe that their manager does not know they are using it. And that is dangerous. Because if you, as an employer, hasn't set any kind of guardrails, is the employee wrong to use Gen AI? If you ask me to prepare a management report on last month's budget to forecast variance, and I take that and put it onto ChatGPT, and ChatGPT reads all of that data and gives me a report, and you didn't tell me not to use ChatGPT, am I wrong? So every organization needs at least the base level of an AI usage policy. It doesn't have to be a 100-page document. It could be 2 pages. You need to have the do's and the don'ts. These are the list of, and in those documents, you also list out AI inventory. What are the things that you can include, or what are the things that you can use? What are the things that you can't? And also, how do you enter data in a way that you don't incriminate personally identifiable information? Think about the fact that you all have an app on your phone, WhatsApp, that's got a large language model built into it now with a little blue circle. And if you ask it anything, do you know where that data is going? That large language model is being trained in the US. It's using every single piece of information you feed it, and it's collecting that data. Now, are there ways to do this without tapping into large language models in the US? Yes, absolutely. But it's going to cost you. So that's where businesses need to be absolutely clear what is okay, what is not okay. But banning it won't be an option, because how are you going to police it? Also, shadow AI can become a bigger problem. Shadow AI is the concept of you, in an organization, your staff use it without telling you. It's better, and we're seeing this even in Australian universities, it's better to ask the student to disclose when they do use AI, because then that changes the way you look at things. Staff are asked to do the same thing. If you're using generative AI in any kind of reporting, disclose it. That way, you look at it from a different lens. You have a little more healthy skepticism. There's always going to be a human in the loop, and that's not going to change. Now, similarly, CP Australia did a research project with Shan Jiatong Liverpool University that looked at the Chinese economy and looked at, very specifically, accountants in China. And the response back was 83% of respondents' firms use digital audit technology. And 76% developed proprietary platforms or bought external software. So there's no replacing this now. It's a case of how quickly do you get on board. But when you look at AI and the skills required, when you ask technology companies and businesses, what 3 skills are the most important to you in terms of AI, the answer is data analysis, critical thinking, problem solving, and prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is third, meaning how can I use my tool? What prompts do I give it? That is number 3. Critical thinking and problem solving is more important. Data analysis is the most important. All things that you should be upskilling yourself on anyways. Now, as an accountant, the same rules apply. It's these skills that businesses that are a little more, let's say, technologically mature, who've got the infrastructure to play with, who've got the resources to spend on experimenting, this is what they're asking for. At the end of the day, you have to keep in mind, I am not an IT person. I am an accountant working in a technology company who hired me because I am an accountant. And their definition of accountant is not the debits and credits person. They recognize, as a solutions consultant, my job is identifying problems and finding solutions for it. But in doing that, you need someone who's a subject matter expert who can recognize the problem. That is where the skill of accounting cannot be replaced. And the ability to then explain it in a way to a person in Melbourne and a person in Moratuwa with the nuances that applies. The absolute fundamental key of getting your AI or your digital transformation right, it's these 3 blocks. The application you will use, the data, and the infrastructure. Out of the 3, the most important, the critical point is data. If your data is 10 years old, that's as well as useless. If your data cannot be reused, that's a problem too. If you don't have a proper data governance strategy, that's a problem too. You need to have data governors, you need to have keepers, the gatekeepers of data within your organizations. And if you think that's the IT department's responsibility, you are wrong. You as an accountant have a part to play in the quality of the data. If you pull data from a system and it goes into an Excel spreadsheet and then it goes into 3 more Excel spreadsheets and then it comes out as a report, that is not quality data. So you need to understand, how do I get my data from point A to a report with as minimal interruptions or manipulations as possible? And that is data modeling. And that is something, as an accountant, you need to have a grasp of. The infrastructure, it's a bit harder to resolve from a practical lens because that's a national issue. But every country is working within the means it has. And infrastructure in that context applies. I've covered a bit of these. Shadow AI, not falling to the hype, the pace of upskilling. And the most important bit about the data governance piece is the security of data. Now, Australia's going very fast on everything to do with AI and digital transformations, but it's also having a lot more security leaks. It's also having a lot more data breaches. Just yesterday, we had an announcement of MediSecure, which is basically the digitalized platform for patients' records and prescriptions, was hacked. These are severe concerns. So yes, there are efficiencies, but you have to be very careful about what protections you have put in place. And that AI governance piece is very important as well. If you, as a leader within your organization, ask the question, which individual person or body or from management is responsible for data governance, you need to have a clear answer. Which individual area is responsible for the governance structures? Who's responsible for the upskilling of people? Who's responsible for the policies and strategies, the practices, the processes, the controls? And then, yes, the supporting infrastructure. But you have a lot to get right before you even hit that infrastructure stage. And those things will come in naturally because your staff will then be motivated to innovate because you're creating a growth mindset. And that growth mindset is effectively what students have. And if you can inculcate that within employees, you get the same outcome. Now, you have to also keep in mind there's traditional AI and generative AI. The best way to explain it is left brain, right brain. Your left brain is analytical, your right brain is creative. Unless I got that wrong. I'm pretty sure that's correct. I'm not a biological person either. The traditional AI, which is, let's look at it as left brain, their focus is detecting patterns, classifying data, and making predictions. Generative AI is to do something new, something creative. If you try to do the wrong thing with the wrong tool, you're going to be wasting your investment. So it is very important to understand where do you fit. So that is why I wanted to show you where those benefits are already available depending on the industry. So these are just some examples of insurance, banking, telco, oil and gas, government, and retail, where organizations globally are taking advantage of AI and giving clear benefits. At the very beginning, I said you need to be very clear on what the use cases are. These are the use cases. So for banking, extracting entities and key pieces of information. For retail, assisting customers through customer support. These are not specific to you, but these are industry specific. But now let's look at, I'm going to jump ahead a little, just in the consideration of time. What you want will not match to what they want. And they could be your IT department, your customer, your stakeholders. And it's very important to understand that this is going to be a give and take relationship when it comes to transformations. You'll find that middle ground, but to be able to find that middle ground, you have to be in the conversation. So if you are running a transformation as a CFO or a finance leader, you need to make sure your subject matter experts are in the room. Your accountants have to be in the room, because you will understand concepts that the IT team won't. When it comes to things like generative AI, those prompts are very important. Yes, there are limitations in large language models, but those can be, those are being resolved even right now. I'm going to skip through some of this and make sure you understand that there's actually two kinds of transformations you can go after. One is where you build it. The other is where the technology providers already built it. So if you are using anything related to cloud technology or software as a service, they do the research, they do the innovation, so you don't have to, because you're paying for it anyways with a subscription. That might work for some organizations. The flip side of it is you build it because you want that control. That is fine too, but understand which works for you and find the balance based on the absolute key point, which is the business issue. It's that issue that your strategy that's revolved around your business issue that should drive which transformation strategy that you use. In terms of use cases, there's dime a dozen that's already available, especially for AI and ML models. Collection risk prediction, on-time payment risk prediction, spend classifications, knowing where your suppliers are from, knowing you not having to enter details into a purchase order or into an invoice, instead of that being all done via optical character recognition. All of these are things that are live and happening today. If you, as a management accountant, need to worry about your days payables or your days receivables, you can actually use AI to tell you what your thresholds should be and how to cut down on the number of days receivables. How can you get your cash inflow quicker? At the same time, finding out where your discounts might be better used as well. All of that information, using tools like Power BI, can give you the insights, but now pair that with AI. Because now, if you have a safe way to use your data, where your data doesn't leave the large language model, instead the large language model comes to you, and that is real, that happens today, then you have the ability to leverage that data, to leverage those insights in a safe environment. I'm going to list these out so you see that this is not theoretical. These are all delivered capabilities that businesses globally are using. Predictive cash forecasting, building a 13-week rolling cash forecast. You learn about cash forecasts, you build cash forecasts, but what if you had a 13-week cash forecast that just flowed from week to week, and it called out any anomalies? Now, that can only exist if your data quality is good. Reporting. I'm just have this up running. How can you actually use a report? How can you actually give prompts to make sure that the report that is created is exactly what you want? The key there is the prompt that you give and the data that you're collecting together. If you're using an application like that for cash forecasting, it does the forecast week by week for you, and it highlights here's what the gap is. Now, your job as an accountant now is two things. One, is that correct in terms of the number that it's giving? You still need to verify it and make sure that the prediction is accurate, that the machine learning accuracy is in line with what you're expecting. It's never going to be 100%. It's a machine that's learning. But is 84% okay for you? That's important for you as an accountant to know. And the second part is, now what do I do with this information? I need to advise my CFO how to arrange accordingly, how to change the business accordingly. So, as I said, if you want to operationalize your digital transformation, be clear on what data you need and the quality of that data. And that's not just your data, that's everyone else's data from your organization. Be clear on the problem, the business process, and know exactly what it is, the problem you're trying to resolve. Those are just some food for thought. Supply risk prediction, profitability insights, automated costing. Be very clear on the problem. Then figure out what the KPI is going to be. Improving days receivable by 1 day. That's what I want to achieve. I want to increase working capital efficiency in 6 months. You set targets, and then you look at the technology. And you'll see that the problem you're trying to solve may have already been solved, instead of you trying to reinvent the wheel. With that, I think there's plenty of examples of how AI is being used today within accounting and finance teams. Plenty of industry-specific examples as well. I'll just end on this quick note. What can you do today? If you're on any kind of social media, use it to your advantage. Go and search for AI tips and tricks, Excel tips and tricks, AI tools, and change the algorithm in your Instagram or your Facebook or your YouTube to actually teach you something. So on a day-to-day basis, you learn something new to do with AI. That is relevant to your business or to your job. And don't worry about the rest of it. The algorithm's listening to you anyways. It'll pick up on what you're doing on your day-to-day life. And that's not a joke. I literally have 3 or 4 channels that I follow on LinkedIn, and it picks up. And now it keeps giving me Excel tips and tricks with Copilot or ChatGPT, how to use these tools for my day-to-day work. Outside of that, upskill yourself. So get yourself certified. Use the educational programs. Look for industry partnerships. These are areas that other countries are spending a lot of time on. From a leadership point of view, have a clear data governance strategy, an AI governance strategy. Make sure you have risk mitigation policies in place for any digital transformation that you do. There's voluntary AI risk management frameworks that are out now, ISO 42001. Use them to your advantage. And as staff, the focus should be on upskilling yourself. The things you should be Googling is, how can I enter a good prompt? What should I look for as a good prompt? Or just go on ChatGPT and ask the question, what is a good prompt? And it'll tell you. Use it to upskill yourself. With that, I will take my leave because I am out of time, but I hope that was useful. The goal for me was giving you a few tools and tips and tricks that you can use to your day-to-day, because that incremental change is what matters the most. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Jayalat. Very interesting, very good presentation. Before go to our eminent panelist, I would like to ask 2 questions from our previous lecturers, especially Dr. Nuan. You have done a education-related presentation. I have one question to ask from you. What are the specific barriers of introducing or implementing AI in Sri Lankan higher education system where you and me work?
All right. Okay. Thank you. That's an interesting question. In fact, we did a study to identify what sort of barriers are there in the education system to adopt AI, especially from the educator's point of view. And out of that, the first barrier we identified was the lack of policies. Lack of policies at the university level, the country level, maybe even at the faculty level. So that's one. Then second was the resource constraints, because you need to invest in infrastructure, then again cybersecurity, so if you're using AI, so that's another one. Then another challenge is, I think, the resistance to change, especially from different generations, as you correctly mentioned, so that we have resistance to change. Then, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that these are the 3 main challenges.
Thank you, Dr. Nuan. Then I will back to the Mr. Jayalat. Now, currently we are facing huge issues about the chat GPT. I think a long time ago, when I giving assignment to the students, normally 2 weeks for deadlines, they ask in 3 weeks. But right now, when I give in 2 weeks, they asking, so it's too much. 1 week we can do the work. Within a week, they can complete the assignment. Now, ChatGPT making huge, you said in Australia only 58% of students are using. In Sri Lanka, 98% of the students are using ChatGPT. Now, that is one angle. In the other angle, I think our accountants, I think here there are a lot of accountants in CMA. I think Professor Wattavala always, introducing new IT-related, digitalization-related subject to the CMA syllabus. Now, just tell me, Mr. Jayalat, what are the specific challenges, especially implementing or a popularization of AI, especially among our accountants?
I'd say number one is that resistance to change is still a problem, and it's a global problem. I've worked in Australian businesses where they've I'm trying to explain a new way of working, and the person has sat me down and said, young man, I've been doing this for longer than you've been alive. So this is how I'm going to do it. It's very hard to change something like that. But coming back to your point about students and the popularization is a problem if you buy into the hype and you forget the risks. And that is where, as an education system, there needs to be effort put into understanding the good and the bad. It's the same thing when the internet came out. It took a while for people to realize that this is not just being used for good. It wasn't just about the information superhighway, it was all about the illegal activity that could happen through it as well. So there's an imperative in secondary education, in high school in university education, to make it clear, here are the benefits, here are the risks with it, and change the way we position it. Dale yesterday was mentioning how you change the way you ask the question. You ask them to disclose when they use ChatGPT, and instead of you giving them a question, you run the question through ChatGPT and you get the response, and then ask the student, why is this not 100% accurate? And in doing that, you're getting the student, now the student has to read the whole thing anyways, but also we'll see that it does hallucinate. And you need to be able to give them the skill set, the guidance, and the guardrails. Because when you have the guardrails in place, the students will know how to, they've got a growth mindset, they've got a learning mindset, they have to adapt in this environment. So it will happen organically, but the way we approach learning has to change. Or teaching, the way we approach teaching has to change.
That's true. Especially our students are smarter, very smarter, than any other students in the world. I think they write prompt engineering, the prompt part, excellent than the lecturers can do, I think. Very well. I think that is, ChatGPT totally depend on the prompt writing, prompt engineering, that the way you write, I think they are very, very smart. Thank you, Mr. Jayalat. Then I will move to the Dr. Sureka. Can you go ahead with, yes, Miss Sureka, please.
Thank you. First, I would like to ask Mr. Manathunga about your experience regarding the digitalization of the banking sector, particularly in Sri Lankan context. Being CEO and MD in one of the largest banks in the country, how is your experience regarding the digitalization of the banking sector, particularly regarding what are the key advantages in the perspective of costing side, maybe operation side, as well as meeting ever-changing customer requirements?
Thanks, CMA, for inviting for this forum. First of all, I would take a quote from Bill Gates. He made a very wise quote 30 years back saying, banking is a necessity, but banks are not. So we are facing that today. Any company providing a service, something like banking, the customers would consume that depending on the convenience. So banks have to be digitalized to be relevant to the customers. When the customers need the service through their mobile phones, while on the go, whenever they are present, if the banks are not providing, as Bill Gates said, somebody will provide that. So as far as banks are concerned, for them to be customer-centric and to be relevant, we need to adopt digital and create that convenience the customers, the new generation of customers are demanding for. Then about the costing. Now, if you look at any company, one of the key ratios, especially in banking, is the cost-income ratio. Income is the revenue, costs, there are a lot of cost accountants. We learned cost accounting in maybe in early 90s, relevant costing, activity-based costing, and these cost curves. All these are theories still valid, but today, the sustainability and the stability and growth of organizations will depend on the level of digital technology and digital adaptation. And you have to increase the velocity in creating value. In a bank, velocity of giving loans, which will even, the economic growth will depend on that. So from a revenue perspective, digital channels are important to scale. Scalability cannot be achieved by having brick and mortar branches. So scalability, you can open 100,000 accounts per day through digital channels, not by bank, but by the customers. So you create convenience. Then business acquisition. Now if you look at a customer journey, a customer coming to the bank, spend time and money, putting up a loan application, it goes to officer with a paper. Those are the traditional ways the banks had been engaging with the customer. Today, tap of the phone should be able to give an instant loan if that bank is having insight, the analytics, the intelligence about the customer behavior, and take a risk. So then the customer journey is automated. The customer should not waste time in coming to the bank. The bank should not waste time and cost in entertaining that customer in a branch. And a call center can even will be the extreme guidance the customer can have. If you hit a brick wall, the customer can have a call center. So digital call center can have a combination of creating the entire customer journey which we created physically 10, 20 years back. So it will increase the revenue, that's a income side of it, and drastically reduce the cost, and also be relevant to the customer. So then I think earlier panelists spoke about ESG. So like digital, every organization today should be sustainable, not only environmental, but socially and also governance. So if you look at the manual processes and digital process, obviously there's a lot of benefit in sustainability. The customers will not burn fuel to go to the bank. The bank will not have paper printing, no toner, cartridges, photocopying. You have the digital channels stored digitally. So paperless, no branches, no AC, no electricity. So that's environment. Then look at the social part. The digitally you can increase the financial inclusivity. You can look at underprivileged customers, look at women empowerment. So that's the social part of it. Then governance. If your processes are digitalized, there's more transparency, auditability, and also reporting. So in that aspect, not only banks, any futuristic organization should not isolate digital as one vertical. Digital is across your business model, and in future, with the transformation, everybody will need, any organization, especially regulated industries like banks, to have digital enabled business processes across the companies.
Thank you, Mr. Manatunga, for sharing your valuable thoughts. And now I would like to ask Mr. Dias. We know that during discussions also it was discussed, and we know that AI and utilization of advanced digital solution is one of the key topics discussing in many areas, many forums, boardrooms, executive committees, not even there, even at political rallies. So in your opinion, whether we can consider AI is transformative or whether it can be considered as a hype. What's your view?
Okay. First of all, thank you very much for inviting me, Professor, and the CMA team. And I think before that, I just want to comment on what Sanat mentioned in terms of that Bill Gates topic. I think I know that 30 years ago it is true, but today I think banking is necessary, and banking is getting invisible with the digitalization to a great extent, because I don't think that anyone will realize today when you engage in a transaction with the embedded banking, whether you will really getting a banking services or just a transaction enablement service, whether it's a loan or a facility that you get. I think that I'm sure the experience with some of these new tech platforms like the BNPL or the buy now, pay later, and embedded financing with any kind of financing activity that you want to do when you're buying or when you're dealing with the buying experience. So as Sanat mentioned, I think the digital is today is embedded into every business, not only banking. So when every business is becoming digital business, so banking is becoming invisible, and it's only a transactional enabler in my view. So answering your question, I think there's a bit of a hype truly in terms of AI, and I think Kaushal mentioned about a lot of things about AI and how it can be used and what we can be used. I think I just want to ask one question. How many of you all think that y'all are creative? I mean, Kaushal showed a very creative images. How many of you all think that, show of hands, that y'all are creative? No one else? No one? Only one. But how many of you all think when you all were kids or our kids are creative? I think right? So what happened during that kids era to now is the journey that which we go through, right? So I think that is where that we are getting molded into not to be creative. I think sometimes we stop the kids even drawing in a wall, right? So I mean that's the creativity that they have. So I think we are all creative. I think we are all creative creatures. I think what Kaushal mentioned, what ChatGPT can do, I'm sure every one of you can do, provided that you are getting a chance to be creative in that nature. So when it comes to the AI, I think there are, Kaushal very rightly showed the traditional AI and generative AI. I think the hype has been created mainly on this generative AI. I think from a business transformation perspective, his topic was very correct in terms of saying that digital and AI transformation. Today, I don't think that the organization can think of just digital transformation because it's a digital means also numbers, but AI means more depth in terms of data, and digital also requires data. So I think that combination of AI and digital transformation is something that which is relevant in today's context for many organizations. And I'm sure the hype that you need to set aside, what exactly it can do, I think his presentation clearly laid down what needs to be done, and especially the governance structures and all that. So I think it's there is a hype, but I think we need to understand these hype cycles will generally end at one particular point of time. But we need to be ready. We need to be experimenting, but within a framework, in my view. And I'm sure there are a lot of challenges that we can discuss later on, but I think there are a lot of challenges also. But I think there is a hype, but you need to find your way through the hype to identify what's real for your business or your area as an individual, as he mentioned, as an accountant, what is relevance to us, or as a business, what is relevant to us, or as a finance company or a bank, what is relevant to us in terms of AI transformation.
Thank you, Mr. Dias. Now, again, would like to ask Mr. Manatunga. Now we have discussing about more opportunities, advantages, and all. With that, I would like to ask from you about risk perspective as well. I think we know that during past 5-6 months period, we were hearing about certain incidents, maybe financial scams, fraudulent activities through online and all. What's your view, or else how, I mean, as bank's perspective, what kind of actions, measures can we take as bank's perspective, as well as what kind of message that we can pass to our customers in order to prevent or else to minimize these kind of fraudulent maybe scams?
First thing is from the banking side, the banks will need to update their legacy systems. Sometimes the legacy systems are not attuned or agile enough to keep up the pace with digital transformation. So banks should internally, I'll come to customer point, banks should have a digital roadmap supported by technology roadmap and a security roadmap. So unless you have the technology and the security roadmap ready, if you invest in digital, you are putting your organization and your customers into risk. Because without proper infrastructure, proper policies, procedures, and also technology, you can't run a bank, and especially you can't run a digital because we are having a lot of customer data, a lot of customers' money, and those are at risk. So having said that, in terms of systems and technology, our IT needs to upskill their and also keep up their skills in line with the development, fast developments which are happening in the world. Unless your IT develops those skills, you're at risk. Your systems are at risk, or you will fall behind the competition. Second thing is the employees. The traditional bankers should upskill their knowledge about technology, technology risk, data governance, and also information security. So these are internal things. Without the entire set of employees understanding the importance of security and IT governance, because the weakest link can make the organization vulnerable. Not the top IT guys will leak data, but sometimes down the line, without knowledge, a clerical staff or a teller can send a Excel sheet with a lot of customer data. Sometimes when I visit branches, I see the first customer's data is on the table, serving the other customer, he can take even a photograph. So I have instructed. So these simple things are vulnerabilities inside, where the data, information, ultimately the confidence of a bank can be lost. From customer perspective, we need to, as bankers, we need to educate the customers about, repeatedly educate through social media and through other communications, what are the things that can make them vulnerable for scams. Whether it's phishing or whether they are clicking on an unwanted link. So we need to keep updating the customer and maybe educating and re-educating them about the importance of not becoming vulnerable for these scams. Because we have seen last 1 or 2 years, I have seen the scammers are getting smarter. Sometimes smarter is not through technology. Just sending a simple email. It can be, our website is combank.net. One A can be written like the A which they print. So they won't notice. And internally also we have carried out certain phishing mails. And the punishment is, if you get caught to a phishing mail internally, they have to come for a training. So without having the customer, internal and external, engaging actively, up to date with these activities, you can be vulnerable. The other thing is, whenever you put out a product into the market, we have to make sure the security aspect is looked after, because always the business will be in a hurry to put a product to the market, but there should be information audit or some information security audits which will see whether these technologies are hard-coded and there are no vulnerabilities.
Thank you, Mr. Manatunga, for sharing valuable thoughts regarding customer side as well as bank side, how we need to encourage customers' awareness plus bank's role as in order to minimize the related risk when you are using high technology advanced solutions and all. Now I'll move to Mr. Dias, and I would like to ask from you, what is the applicable legal and regulatory landscape, particularly regarding AI, global context as well as in particular Sri Lankan market context, particularly in your views regarding data protection as well as customer security and the governance side. What's your view?
Okay. Just to add a few things to Sanat's points, I think I'm sure the security is one of the key areas that we as an organization, I think a couple of days ago, I'm sure you would have heard about this CrowdStrike platform, which is one of the world's mostly used platform, had an impact on many organizations, large organizations from airlines to the banks to worldwide, right? So it's a one lesson I think I'd like to share, because I think fortunately that we were not using as a group, but I know a lot of people have got affected, but that's, you should not give everything to the technology. I think you should have some kind of a process internally to manage that in organizations, like how do you respond, or how do your response strategy going to be in terms of that kind of event, because it was completely out of control of any CIO or any technology guy or a security guy in reality, right? So I think that's something that we need to do. And of course, at the same time, I think it spoke about the weakest link. I think we have seen even a call center that we take it for granted in terms of the call center people have given access to many customer information to serve your customer better at the end of the day. Especially in the banking side, you need to, the customers are demanding, so you need to be very very, very careful about that. So stemming from that, coming into the governance, I think these are all governance questions that we are answering, right? From a Sri Lankan perspective, I think we haven't, we have a Privacy Act which is coming in, and then it is enforced. I think there are a lot of work that we need to do in terms of as organizations to abide by that. I think it's enforced, but there are a lot of work we have to do in terms of data classification and identifying what is personally identifiable data, and how do you prevent leakage. Example again from a call center perspective, will it get leaked from a call center or a weakest link in the organization? However much that we use technology, it might not be able to prevent it. From an AI governance perspective, I think at this given moment, there are, I think Kaushal alluded to one particular standard which is coming, that is the ISO 42000 standard, which has been there, which is introduced, which is a very good framework to start with. I think it's very important today. I think just like, in my view, digital and AI both are journeys that an organization is engaging with. It's not a, sometimes organizations think, let's put a chat bot which is AI-driven chatbot and let's tick that box and then we are done and dusted. But it is not going to be like that, because your entire journey in terms of the data and the organization is working in a very dynamic environment. So therefore, the governance and the infrastructure, the governance in terms of AI also needs to be growing with the organization, and these chatbots and whatever that you do, because that needs something called data governance in the organization. And so even though there is no, some countries we see that AI governance frameworks and having discussions in terms of coming up with policies. Even in Sri Lanka, we know that there is a discussion around it. But I think what is important in today's context for the organization is at least having, as Kaushal also mentioned, that some kind of a governance framework in terms of your AI is very, very important for you to innovate around that. Otherwise you will be losing out. It's not a case of not using AI or not doing digitalization. It's a case of you doing it and how you are doing it and what framework, around what framework that you do in terms of digital. So we learn a lot in terms of, we introduce a LLM-based chatbot, right? So I personally, being a technologist and a business head, and I personally wanted to, before it is launched, I personally wanted to go through it many times for fine-tuning it. The reason is I didn't want any any bad experience to come to the organization, or bad experience goes to the customer as well. So it's not a role for IT only. It's not a role for business head only. I think it's a joint effort that you need to put in terms of governing and bringing that governance framework to the organization.
Thank you, Mr. Conrad. I think very recently we had a blue screen error. Yeah, how it's affected your organization?
Professor, that's what I mentioned. I think our organization, we didn't use that particular technology. It's called CrowdStrike, right? And so I think we know that many organizations got affected in the world, right? And it was I think it's more than the effect that which had. I think resolving it back, because it impacted the nodes or the computers in the network. So when you have, let's say, if it happens to an organization like ours, which we have about almost around the world, around more than 15,000 nodes, then it is a big issue. So I think how to recover it is a strategy that we need to come up. And it was just happened due to some issue with the vendor side. It's out of control.
I'm happy to add to that, because we've...
Sure, Australia got affected a lot.
So that's exactly it, because it was the time zone at which it happened. Australia was fully functioning. It came to a point where airlines were grounded, flights couldn't take off, supermarkets were closed. Everything stopped. For a little while, everything stopped. And the recovery is now set to take 2 weeks. And that's because the infrastructure was not ready for something that they were, and at the end of the day, the problem was the technology provider did an update that made all of Windows laptops just shut down because it thought it was a security risk. So it was doing what it was supposed to, right? It's a blue screen of death that impacted millions of people because the laptop did what it was supposed to. I don't recognize this. This is a threat. I'm going to shut down. Right? So in that scenario, risk management, crisis management plays a huge part. As a country, they were able to come together, bring the CEO of the company straight into a call with the government to make sure that all impacted parties, the leadership of all impacted parties were there. Those things were already in place as frameworks. So it was just a matter of activating it. Dale and I were on a call when my laptop just shut down. So we experienced it firsthand, 4 o'clock on a Friday. But provided you have the right guardrails in place, you will come over that. India resorted to issuing handwritten boarding passes to their flights, to get their flights going. People will figure out ways, but people need to be enabled to figure it out. And that's where the framework matters.
Thank you, Mr. Jayalat. Now, as AI usage is concerned, we are in the 95th country out of 198 countries. We are still in the very low level. Now, Mr. Conrad, do you have any idea to improve this readiness level and usage level of the AI among the industries in Sri Lanka?
I think it's all up to all of us, I think, right? So the adoption is the key. Sometimes we use it for our personal use, but we don't look at the bigger picture that which the AI can solve in terms of or the AI or even digitalization. So if you take the Sri Lankan context, digitization or digitalization in the Sri Lankan context also at a very lower level, having almost more than the population using the smartphone or the phones, mobile phones, but our adoption has been very limited. So I think it's alluded to even though we have a very literate, we are a literate country, but I think the literacy doesn't mean that the adoption can come in. I think it's actually solving the real use case of the customers what matters in my view. And we see that one of the key issues that we know, so I think the ignorance of I think we have to change our educational mechanism, education system to altogether, in my view, in terms of not only this, the literacy is not the key indicator, right? The practical, I think we saw from Dr. Nuan's presentation in terms of how practicality being used in the studies in terms of giving them the practical. I think it has to start from the small level as well, the early elementary level of education also, because we see one of the key in the banking sector, since we also run a finance company, banking sector, but we see in terms of the frauds that which we get to know is through social engineering. People are getting the OTPs, that's ignorance, purely social engineering, getting the OTP from giving various excuses and getting the OTP and giving the OTP to an unknown person. So it's not the literacy, I think it's general education and general understanding. So I think that's what will drive.
Thank you. I think I would like to move to the, you want to add something? Okay, sure.
Yeah. I will also add our experience in the AI, right? You have to have a starting point. So we started, there are a lot of accountants here. I don't know how many have gone through our annual report last time. We enabled the AI chatbot. Now you don't have to read the annual report. If you go and ask a question from AI chatbot, it will give you a certain summary of sustainability actions or profitability, how the ratios behave. Everything is given by that chatbot. So this may be first time in Sri Lanka, maybe first time in the world, a public listed company started the AI chatbot to guide the stakeholders who are reading the annual report. Now, I have gone through the central bank annual report, which is a heavy document. but a very important document for Sri Lankans. So we can adapt this. In central bank report, you can adapt. Simple thing. It's the simple chatbot. Read and give some information. Then internally, how many people in your organization go through the circulars, guidelines, policies? You can have a small chatbot. Then look at the maybe some hyper-personalization, the high-end AI analytics. You can go as a roadmap. You can develop. But you have to start with your skill set and with one step. Then you create that culture of having AI going up to creating customer convenience by hyper-personalization your products.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Manatunga. Then I would like to move to the audience. Is there anything, any questions? Please share with us. I think okay, please write and, okay, sir, go ahead. Write and send is much better, but anyway, if you can come forward and ask. You need a microphone, I think. Yeah, they are going to provide.
I was amazed by Kaushal's AI lecture. Actually, I retired from the electricity board. Normally, that organization had problems on cash flow. And those are not in billions, but in billions. And at the time when I was there, we didn't have a problem. The method we forecasted the cash flow was that during hydro situations favorable, we had excess cash. So we used to invest in treasury bills and keep it as a cushion against the time when there is a dry season and for which we had cash flow problems. So considering this, of course, now I am retired. At that time, I don't think AI was there. So I was really taken up by Mr. Jayalat's lecture. So how can Mr. Jayalat help in the situation now? For recently, you would have noticed that electricity board increased the tariff thinking that there will be a dry season, but ultimately it was a wet season. and that led to a very high net profit, which they also felt that it was very unreasonable to have revised the tariff forecast. And of course, at the moment, what they are doing is they are checking with the weather department, and that's how they are adjusting the tariff. Mr. Jayalakani, how can AI help in the situation of that organization?
So there it comes back down to the problem you're trying to resolve there is accuracy in forecasting, right? Accuracy in forecasting requires the proper data to come in. So then it's a question of what data were they using to make their cash flow forecast. Is it only financial data, or are they actually factoring in probability of weather change, monsoon change, seasonal change? Is that all factored in? Do you even have a model that can factor in financial and non-financial data together? Then AI comes in. So AI is not the starting point, it's the ending point. The start is the quality of the data and how clean it is and how usable it is. Then we look at AI. Now, where AI adds value there is productivity. You don't need 10 people to run that model. It will run it. And not just run the models that you create, it will also, you can give it guidelines. This is the upper threshold, this is the lower threshold. And see how that projects. Then you ask it to break the threshold and see what happens when those thresholds are not met. So taking your example, what if scenario A happens, where there is a drought? What if scenario B happens, if there is no drought? How different is the variance? Now continuously measure this every single day. A person cannot do that. It's too much work. But if you build that into an AI model, it can do that every single day. Do you have the infrastructure and the data to support it? That's the bigger issue. Once you have that in place, so a lot of Australian companies use shock modeling. Since COVID, shock modeling is something that they do regularly. How do we prepare for the next pandemic? That's their thinking. So what you're talking about there is a part of that too, which is how do you prepare for crises, but also how do you have a 2-year, 3-year projection of what that will do for you every single day. It's not something you do once a year and you leave it. You continuously have it rolling.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other question? If you have any cheats, you can send to us. Professor, I think you have something to ask? No. Okay. Then I'm going to summarize the entire session. I think, first of all, thank you very much for Mr. Conrad and Mr. Manatunga, and our two presenters, Mr. Jayalath and the Dr. Nuwan. We have, I think, discussed about the challenges and barriers of popularizing, introducing AI and digitalization. I think we all accountants are here. I think we have a big task to do. I think immediately we want to adapt to these new technologies. I told you very beginning, the populations are two types, native digitalizing people and the digital aliens, right? Now the people like us, I think we are coming under the shock with a lot of digitalization kind of things, but immediately we can adapt. That is digital aliens. And the other group is you are all young people, young accountants. You are nature-wise, you can adapt to this technology very soon. I think the coming future of our country totally depend on the AI and digitalization and machine learning. The university system, I think, year 2003, I started to teach artificial neural network, that means machine learning. In that time, I had only 5 students. Now I have around 300 odd students in the class. Now the students already realize how machine learning is important, how these AI things are very important. Now I think as accountants like you, our CMA syllabus also, mostly I think those AI digitalization parties inculcated. I think you have to adapt this technology and put it to your industry and make more effective decision-making part. Thank you very much for participating, all of you today. Have a nice day to you. Thank you.
Thank you too to our chairpersons and panelists and speakers. We'd like to now present them with a token of our gratitude and appreciation. Some things have to be done in an analog fashion, and so we'd like to invite Professor Lakshman R. Ratawala, the president of CMA Sri Lanka, to present you physically with tokens, not digitally. We begin with our chairman, Senior Professor Kennedy Gunawardena. And our co-chair, Ms. Sureka Katavala. Dr. Nuwan Gunaratnana. Mr. Kaushika Jayalath. Mr. Sanath Manatunga. And of course, Mr. Conrad Dias. And for the photograph, we'd like to invite Mr. Hennayaka Bandar. We'd like to also invite Professor Pinto up on stage for the photograph. Thank you. Now, for those of you who are not in the photograph, well, you'll notice that our tea break has seen an infrastructure adaptation in order to increase the velocity of giving value. It's not digitally driven because we're not reinventing the wheel, but it certainly is value-enabled and solution-savvy, if Dr. Gunaratne will pardon my co-opting the terms that he used. What I mean is that instead of you going to the refreshments will come to you. Beverages will still be outside, so if you would like some tea or coffee, you're invited to step outside to avail yourself of them. And when you're doing that, we'd like to invite you to visit the Sanasa desk, because they have a box there which will enable you or facilitate the winning of a prize in the raffle draw at the end of the day. So you'll have a special surprise. The box is for your business cards, and if your business cards aren't available, they'll present you with coupons. Also, we'd like to thank our sponsors, because their support is what made all of this possible. And so we thank our platinum sponsors, Lanka IOC PLC and Pearson View. Our gold sponsors, Sanasa Life Insurance Company PLC, OTR Engineered Solutions Lanka, Diesel and Motor Engineering PLC, Haycarb PLC, and SLT Mobitel. Our silver sponsors, Selinco Life Insurance Limited, SoftLogic Life Insurance PLC, National Savings Bank, AJ Medichem International Private Limited, Built Element Limited, and Akbar Brothers Group. And our print media partner, Vijay Newspapers Limited, as well as our sponsor, People's Bank. Our next session will take in the political, economic, and social implications of the IMF reform program. So we'll invite you to return at that time. We'll make appropriate noises, but the tea break will be approximately 30 minutes. Do enjoy your refreshments.